Right. So I thought for once, why not cover a bad game? Red Steel for the Nintendo Wii. Let's check this out. Oh. Game's not in here. Well. Thank fuck for that! Huh. Zack and Wiki is a point-and-click puzzle game created by Capcom, exclusively for the Wii. You play as a pirate called Zack, as you probably guessed, alongside his sidekick Wiki, and right off the bat you'll notice this game is gorgeous. With a very anime-esque art style for the characters and little levels with cutaways, it makes me think of a mix between the art style of an anime such as One Piece and the diorama level design of Paper Mario. I don't know if I ever mentioned this on Twitter or anywhere else, but Zack and Wiki was one of the first games I ever tried to do a video on. I believe just after the Super Mario Sunshine video. Remember back then? Nope, probably not. That's what I like to call my lazy period, since back then I never really made videos regularly, and for some reason my original attempt at Zack and Wiki just never happened. I guess I felt the video wasn't good enough, but things have changed since then. I have gained a great deal of drive and motivation to create videos regularly, so I figured I would go back to Zack and Wiki to redeem myself for being a lazy prick back in the day. The 31st of May will be the 2-year anniversary of me having uploaded my first video, so I decided I would make May Throwback Month, where I look at games I either failed to review or felt didn't do justice. So without further ado, let's get on with Zack and Wiki. We're introduced to our titular protagonist Zack as he's sleeping on an old junker of a plane, piloted by a member of Zack's pirate crew, the Sea Rabbits, his name being Johnny. He's a cool character who appears from time to time to save Zack from peril as well as offer helpful advice here and there. One thing I found interesting about Johnny, and this leads into Capcom's attention to detail in this game, is Johnny appears in a pot to talk to Zack, and once they've had their little chat, Johnny dives back into the pot and you resume playing the game. And part of you wonders at this point, is he still in the pot? So naturally, you pick up the pot and smash it, and there goes Johnny dashing off the stage.
Yeah! Oh my!
I just enjoyed the level of detail that went into fairly insignificant things like this. You can tell it's a game which had plenty of care put into it. Anyway, returning to the plane, Zack is sleeping and we see Wiki talking, trying to rouse the snoozing pirate. When Wiki yells, "Oh goodness, look at all this treasure!" and he springs awake, this immediately giving an insight into what Zack is like as a character, always on the hunt for treasure and striving to become the best pirate possible. Just look at that smile. This opening segment is basically there to help you get to grips with how this game plays and the basic controls you need to try and remember, which I'll go over in detail in just a little bit. So they're flying along when suddenly their ride gets a little bumpy as they're attacked by the Sea Rabbits' rivals, the Rose Rock crew, led by the wealthy and spoiled Captain Rose, in an attempt to try and steal a treasure map from Zack and company. Johnny evacuates the plane knowing that Zack will be totally fine. I mean, come on, let's just go back to that smile for a minute there. Ah, perfect. He is the Sea Rabbit's ace pirate after all, he'll think of something. At which point you jump off the plane and begin plummeting towards the ground and you're introduced to how items work, since you obviously can't just fall straight down and hope to be okay. So you get the chance to move your cursor around and check out the things falling around you, and one of such items is a parasol, or umbrella if you prefer. You click it and it floats over to Zack and you're taught how to examine and use items. You'll notice a giant number 2 on the handle of the parasol. Press 2 on your Wiimote and boom, the parasol opens up. And it's an oddly satisfying thing, looking at an item with a big 2 on it, and it actually works. I mean, it's not like the game's gonna lie to me, but it's somehow still very satisfying. So we land safely, no thanks to Wiki. And the lovely junker of a plane is now looming overhead, threatening to flatten Zack and Wiki. So now your observational skills are put to the test as you get into the meat of what makes up Zack and Wiki, observing your environments to come up with a solution to any problem or a method of getting to a difficult area. And how you do this, you may ask, is by utilising Wiki's unique ability of transforming animals into handy-dandy little items you can use, such as in this section where you turn a tree beetle, scorpion thing, into a saw to cut down a tree to your escape. and you find the golden legendary pirate Barbaros, who promises Zack a legendary pirate ship in exchange for gaining all of his body parts and putting them back together. And I really love this mechanic of turning animals into tools. Being able to turn any animal you see into some sort of item is really interesting, and is used effectively throughout the course of the game, with each level adding more ways to use animals and by extension their transformations. But this doesn't end up like a Mario Bros scenario. Like in Mario Bros you'll see a new power up and assume, okay, I guess this level requires this power up in particular. And usually this is the case, and while Zack and Wiki does do this at times, it mixes it up by adding new animals that you need to use in different ways than by simply transforming them. A couple examples would be in this one level. You notice a worm. Its transformation is to turn into a drinking straw. You proceed onwards with the worm straw and it doesn't make much sense. There's lots of water in the level, so you think you might have to use it as a makeshift snorkel. Then you notice you need to catch a giant fish, and there's a fishing rod. Instead of the worm straw, you simply need the worm on the end of the fishing rod. Another example is on this level, where there are these very aggressive goblin enemies who you need to put to sleep by slipping a sleeping mushroom into their soup, which they regularly drink at intervals. The unique way of utilising animals in this stage is to bonk a snake which is resting down this hole on the head, therefore making it aggressive. It runs through the hole, scaring away the cook, giving you a chance to slip the mushroom into the soup. Then you actually have to use the snake's transformation to grab the giant spoon which is sitting up high, to hit the gong and attract the rest of the goblins, putting them to sleep. The way each individual level is constructed has been well thought out with very unique and clever puzzles. One of my favourites is a level where you require a key to open the door blocking your access to the treasure chest, and there's some kind of mechanism in the centre of the room. One of the lion heads dispenses water while the other freezes, and there are two moulds on each side. So you assume you have to make a key out of the ice. Only problem is that the water dispenser can only be used on one of the moulds to make the basic shape. The other mould has 3 mould parts which you can slide around to make the shape you want. Each one is coloured differently to correspond to the colours found in the door blocking the treasure, so you can assume you have to match that pattern. This is where the clever part, which I really appreciate, comes into play. The steps for this stage are as follows. Configure the shape for the key on the left mould. Pour water into the right mould to make an ice bar. Place the ice bar on the left key mould. Do the same again to make another ice bar. Now you need to melt the ice bar which is sitting on the key mould, using the other ice bar to concentrate the ray of light coming in through the ceiling. And finally, freeze the water in the key mould. And there you have a perfect key for the door. So you claim your treasure. There's just something really nice about little puzzles like that, which clearly have a lot of thought put into them. It's not even just the puzzle solutions that have lots of creativity, but also the varied and hilarious deaths. I literally pressed a button and accidentally killed Zack. Actually, that tends to happen a lot. You really need to be careful in how you approach each obstacle, as one wrong move can mean instant death. Although there are things to help you along the way. Firstly, there are what's known as platinum tickets, which let you revive Zack where you died instead of having to restart the stage all over again. I tend not to use these since using them takes away a large chunk of your points at the end of the level. It's got that Angry Birds kind of feel. There isn't 3 stars you can get, but there is what's called High Rame Q. High Rame Q is how smoothly you completed the level. This can be things such as how many different attempts you made on a particular puzzle, how good you were at certain tasks such as catching the fish on that one level I mentioned. You struggle with it for a while and you need to time shaking the Wiimote to when it says move at the top right corner, next to the lovely naked man who I'll regrettably have to talk about shortly. If you time it wrong, the line can break and you have to retry, and that initial failure takes away from your High Rame Q points, which are tallied up at the end of the level, and you're given a rank with the highest being unpuzzleable. Your High Rame Q is counted up throughout the entire game and goes towards your pirate rank. Think of it as Zack's infamy, which is a nice touch since with each rank you go up you get a better and better looking wanted poster, and it sort of motivates you to gain more points and get an even better picture. So then, as you probably guessed by now, this game is a third-party Wii game. The term has its own stigmatism since the Wii was riddled with third-party shovelware titles with wonky motion controls. So how does this stack up against those kinds of titles? Well, like a lot of motion controlled games, it has its problems. But they're few and sparse. The main gameplay actions you need to perform are shaking the Wiimote to use Wiki's bell action for transforming animals into items, and pointing on the screen to tell Zack where to go, and they work perfectly fine 99% of the time. Then there's special actions you need to perform which are contextual to what you're interacting with, and these have specific Wiimote grips. Sort of like in WarioWare Smooth Moves, where you are told different ways to hold the Wiimote based on what you are doing, and this game is no different. The lovely gentleman up in the right corner will tell you what kind of action you're meant to be doing. No matter how hilarious it may be, he gives it his all. Just look at him go. Just, beautiful. The motion controls are fun. They're implemented in such a way that they're not super complex or difficult to perform, but as I mentioned before, it has its problems. The main problem I have is in regards to Bone Lick. Bone Lick is a music composing friend of Barbaros, who gives you a small musical minigame, where you have to conduct in time with the music he plays by swinging the Wiimote in time, and like many motion games, it can be a bit imprecise. Especially at these zigzag sections where you're supposed to shake the Wiimote, sort of like you're sustaining a note, and due to the imprecise nature of the motion controls, you can sometimes shake it for just a bit too long, which can deduct from your performance, and since you need to have a certain level of perfect hits for Bone Lick to reward you with either a treasure map or an upgrade to Wiki's abilities, this can be really detrimental. To fully test the motion controls, I tested this game with both a standard Wiimote and a Wiimote Plus, and interestingly I found that the normal Wiimote worked way better. It just felt more precise, and I suppose it shouldn't surprise me too much, seeing as it was no doubt optimised for the basic Wiimote. I just found it quite surprising, since typically the Wiimote Plus is much more precise, even on older Wii games which came about before the Plus was even a thing. Nevertheless, while Bone Lick's minigames can be annoying, they're also simultaneously really enjoyable, since the music he plays are renditions of music from classic Capcom games, notably Ghosts and Ghouls' main theme and Mega Man 2's Dr. Wily's Stage 1 theme. In fact, there's a bunch of references to old Capcom games in the form of 3D sprite relics, which is another nice and quirky touch to this game's already charming atmosphere. Okay. Right. Thanks. Okay, I just got a rather strange call telling me there was a package outside my door. Better go check this out.